Gray Zone Warfare has officially entered early access, but it's done it with a little bit of contention. It's because a lot of people are having issues with the performance of the game. I'm really fortunate to be on an excellent build from metapcs.com, which is allowing me to play Gray Zone Warfare at 100 frames per second. Nice and buttery smooth. These guys make insane gaming rigs, whether you want a custom built PC and just to build a replica of a NASA spaceship, or you want to get something that's ready to ship right now. They've got a ton of options. And right now, my code PAIRS is going to get you double the discount it usually would. That's something I've worked out with them in honor of the launch of Gray Zone Warfare, which is a game, by the way, that I am very much enjoying despite some of the criticisms the game is receiving. And today I want to take you guys on that adventure with me. The footage you're looking at right now is from launch day. I got a couple hours of gaming in and wanted to share it right away. I jumped in, I joined the Mithras faction, which is kind of a knockoff Blackwater mercenary faction, kind of amoral and really just in it for the money and the violence, and that is something that I can vibe with. I picked up my 3 initial starter tasks, called in the little bird, and went into the environment to go accomplish these tasks. The first couple of tasks that I went out to do, really I had 2 in mind. One, I had to go to the 2 different corners of the starter town and plant some tracking devices in these caches. And the other mission that I had was to go to a medical supply point, an abandoned UN facility, and then upon arrival retrieve those medical supplies and bring them back to Lab Rat. Something that continues to strike me about this game is just how freaking gorgeous it is. And I can totally empathize with those that are having performance issues. It's really not acceptable that the game would be performing poorly on mid-range builds, and I suspect that optimization is at the top of the to-do list for the dev team. However, the game is on Unreal Engine 5, the environment is giant and it is gorgeous, and once you get it running right, you just can't deny how absolutely incredible and immersive the environment is. The vegetation is thick, the audio is much improved over previous test builds. I'd previously criticized the way that the guns had sounded, but they're sounding a lot better. Here I'm running a Mark 18 with a quad rail, and this is one that came with the supporter edition of the game. Got the EOTech EXPS3 on top, and I'm working my way to that first edge of the map. I kind of approached this really carefully and kind of stalked up nice and quiet because I was by myself, and I used that same approach throughout this playthrough, and I found that playing by yourself really gives this a very, survival shooter kind of feel. The AI aren't the brightest in the world, but they're certainly dangerous, and they will absolutely kill you. And so I found myself clearing from the external of these compounds quite a bit, working my way in very deliberately. Didn't want to die to something stupid like getting one-tapped by an AI that I wasn't ready for. And so I knocked these 2 guys out from this first breach, snagged a backup AK off the first guy, then worked myself back around to the other side of the compound to see if I could get a better angle. I wouldn't have to enter into that big open area. Pied off the back corner of the compound, didn't see anything whenever I first peeked it, went ahead, decided to push, and I had to actually locate the cache inside of this lumberyard somewhere. Something interesting about Gray Zone Warfare is you get these tasks, but you don't get a marker on the map really indicating exactly where you need to go. And I'm kind of playing it blind. I didn't want to have any of that spoiled for me. Don't intend to really look up any guides or anything like that. I'd like to just experience the game for what the developers intended it to be experienced as. And that is a higher degree of difficulty. The room I'm in right now, actually, the cache is right there with me, and I just didn't know it. And I continued looking because I had not yet discovered it. You can also see some hide over board there on the EOTech. That guy was, inside 7 or 9 yards. That bottom tick on that reticle is where that bullet's going to go, and I clipped the wood as a result. Got pushed immediately by another AI, and fortunately he did not come into this little room, and I was able to pie off the room, push back out, and knock him out. Those guys did feel a little bit spongy. I think the AI are easier to kill now than they were in the playtest that I first checked out, and I am pleased with that, but every once in a while I'll find myself putting 5, 6, 7 rounds into these guys, and they're not going down. However, remember the AI in Gray Zone Warfare are a replica of the player. They have the same amount of blood as you, the same type of health system. They've got the broken bones and broken internal organs or damaged internal organs, and so it's going to take them a second. If you're not getting head and heart shots, it's going to take them a second to bleed out and go down. However, their performance will immediately degrade. They're not going to be as responsive once they become wounded, and that's something I've certainly noticed. And if it's a little bit spongy, but I still get the benefit of that full health system in the AI, that's something that I'm willing to accept. Came around here to this back corner, and this is where things get a little interesting. I had a player scare me here. He's on my own faction. Okay, I sent around.
Holy shit, bro.
I apologize.
Sorry.
He team killed me. And that's kind of the name of the game, unfortunately. He TK'd me. It was just a flinch response. Unfortunately, I sent him a message, said, hey man, sorry I scared you. Sucks that you killed me. I'm coming back to grab my stuff. He'd already taken all of my stuff, so I went back in with a knife, was unable to recover any of my gear, had to go back to the starting position. I grabbed my backup AK and finally came back to the little lumber yard to complete the task that I was initially assigned. So you guys just skipped 15 or 20 minutes of me very angrily moping to myself. After I got that first cache tracker planted, I started pushing towards the UN health facility to recover the med supplies, peeked both of these dudes. A couple rounds really, really close to me right there in the wall. I'm loving the gunplay on the AK especially. That recoil pattern feels pretty authentic. It might be a little bit overdone, but visually it's very compelling, and the sounds look awesome. These AKs are hilarious. This guy doesn't even have a dust cover on it, and the freaking half the gun's just, the upper receiver's just exposed there, which I think is wild, but it looks good. So I made contact with those guys, went all the way around to flank from a different position because I want to enter through the same position that I had just been engaged from. I had taken a little bit of damage, I think, at this point. No, I'm still healthy. I'm still healthy. The damage will come, for sure. I climbed up on this little platform in the adjacent compound so I could peek into the UN hospital facility. Didn't see any AI here, so I decided to hop down, vault over the wall, and then go in and grab the medical supplies after doing just a quick little clearance of the area. Still being pretty deliberate, making sure the guys that I had engaged from the street were actually popped, and both of them were. Checked their bodies real quick to make sure they didn't have anything good on them. They never do. Found the medical supplies and continued movement. Now I have to go even further south to the other end of the village here to recover the last cache, or to place that device, that tracker, in the last cache. So we did exactly that. Got to the final building. And remember, again, these are not indicated on my map in any way. I just have to use terrain to associate. 2 AI right there. Look at the muzzle flash and the blast coming off the muzzle. That's straight up obscuring the target, which is pretty interesting. So yeah, you have a 6-digit grid coordinate that gets you within, 100 meters or so, a couple hundred meters. And then you have to figure it out from there, just using context clues and making sure you read and understand the full task. Knocked out a couple of guys in the courtyard over here. This is not the actual target building quite yet. I still have to go south a little bit further to get to the warehouse where the other cache is located. But because I encountered contact here and I had to engage that guy up on the balcony, I wanted to come up here and make sure he was actually down. You can see his body there. He certainly was. Once I confirmed that he was dead, decided to go ahead and continue pushing towards the warehouse. Ran around the perimeter of the warehouse looking for the cache again. I'm not sure exactly where it was. I couldn't find a breach to the actual warehouse itself, but this little side building here, a bunch of crates and whatnot. I'm thinking, hey, this is probably my cache. So I buckle up or button up in here, close the door, find the cache, plant the tracker. At this point, I'd been out in the field for quite a while. My homie is quite hungry, so I decided to just button up, close both those doors, and enjoy a delicious cheese tortellini MRE main meal all to myself and wash it down with some water. Once I got my energy and my hydration back up, I called for the Xville Bird from a good ways away, and what I've noticed is that the arrival of the Xville aircraft seems to scale based off how far you are away from the Xville HLZ. So I called that from probably 300, 350, 400 meters away, and I think it took like 3 or 3.5 minutes for that aircraft to arrive and take me back to my base. So I had completed my first 2 tasks. I had one more, and this one was a little sporty. It was a reconnaissance mission where I had to go check out a couple different places around the map. I decided, based off my map reconnaissance, that I was able to take a long gun on this one and see if I could get some standoff. So I brought the Remington 700, the Vortex Viper PST, and a RC2 762 suppressor. It might be an RC1, actually, but SOCOM Surefire suppressor for 762. And I had not used any of the snipers in this game yet, so I was very eager to check that out. Plus, something about just going solo and lerping your way through this environment is quite immersive, and I'm really looking forward to doing even longer movements and even hunting players over really long distances and just taking a ton of sustainment and bolt guns with me, because this was a blast. So AK as the backup gun, Remington 700 as the primary, and start moving out towards the objective. And I was real slow and deliberate with this movement, swapping back and forth between the AK and the Remington 700 as required, depending on what kind of threat I thought I was going to encounter. And, while we're talking about it, the game itself is fun. I am enjoying it. I'm having a good time. I would rather be playing it right now than talking into my microphone and staring at my computer. It is good. It is good if you have your expectations in order. Of course, I don't need to tell you guys, but it's obviously an early access game. That being said, I really didn't encounter any game-breaking bugs. My performance was fine. I am on a beefy rig, and I can totally empathize with those that are playing on normal machines that are experiencing issues. That would be extremely frustrating, and I get that, and I expect that it'll improve. As far as like the gameplay loop itself, I'm enjoying it. I've think there's sufficient tasks to keep me engaged. I haven't even got to PvP in a meaningful way yet, and that's going to be pretty damn good, and I'm really looking forward to it. It sounds a hell of a lot better. The gunplay is starting to feel really good, and I'm looking forward to it. So we arrived to the first reconnaissance objective. This is a gas station. I hear a bunch of audible gunfire in the distance, decide to push towards it. Gunfire sounds close. Swap over to the AK because I feel like I'm about to get in a gunfight, and my prediction was correct. Dude sneaks up really close in the vegetation, engages me. He's still up. I switch over to a frag, get the frag out, get down in the prone to avoid getting dead. Frag goes off. I don't know if he's dead or not yet, but I used the opportunity to quickly bandage. I'm still getting the feel for the health system, and I probably didn't need to bandage. I probably should have won the fight and worried about the bandage later because it doesn't look like I was losing blood particularly fast. All of that said, got the bandage on, hoping he's dead from the frag. I re-peek it and immediately get engaged again. So this time I just mag dump, and it's time to break contact. It's not worth dying, especially with that suppressor and that bolt action rifle on me because I don't know that I have any or many more of them. Find some more cover, make sure that my health is looking okay. It was at this point, and this cover is looking a lot better than the previous spot. Peek it a couple times, but listen to the incoming rounds. It sounds so good. Decide to toss another frag. I'm really treating this like a S&O position almost, like I'm just breaking contact, dumping mags, and backing off. If I was with buddies, sure, continue to push through. Solo, I just can't account for all the angles. The AI seem to blend into the vegetation in a really dangerous way, so I go way back, a couple hundred meters, and then move to the north even further and try to get on this piece of high ground so I can set up that Remington and go to work from range. So I've disengaged here, but I encountered this little house as I was moving to my hide site, so that I can actually fire the bolt gun. Encountered one dude here. One shot to the head, as you guys can see, is absolutely a kill on AI. So if you have the opportunity to sneak up on him, that is the right way to do it. After I went loud here, I'm now concerned that there could be other guys working in the area, and I'm also concerned that my one shot, despite it only being one, may have drawn attention. So I'm taking this pretty deliberately. Right side looks clear, left side looks clear, then I notice this mover. He takes a few more rounds to go down. You do notice, though, he was ineffective after taking those first couple. Wasn't able to engage me accurately or anything like that. So as long as you have the jump on them, despite them taking a second to go down, they're not going to hurt you as long as you're getting accurate fire into them early in the fight. Continue clearing through this little outhouse or this little building on the outskirts of the gas station. Don't see anything. Decide to go inside. Just make sure there's nothing lootable and no AI inside the building. Go ahead and go inside. Find a couple of dead PMCs in here. I don't have a task to identify these bodies yet. I suspect that at some point that will be a task because they very much look like they're posed. They're high poly renders. They're not players. Those are set pieces in the environment. Once I did make sure that the area was secure, I went ahead and creeped into my hide site, took a swig of water to rehydrate just in case I got into another fight. And then I got the glass out on the Remington and started looking for targets down at the gas station, really wanting to thin their numbers down there before I pushed in. The reconnaissance task simply requires that we get close enough to discover it. First shot here, obviously when the bolt cycles, it's really tough to identify whether or not you hit your target. I did not know whether or not I had at the time. Now going back and looking at it in slow motion, of course, I can see that it was a one-hit kill to the head, and we are suppressed. So at this point, I'm not super concerned about being compromised, but clearly it's possible that they heard something, and this guy definitely saw his buddy fall. I was able to get one round into him. Again, didn't know if he went down. Didn't even know if he was the same guy as that first one that I saw. But going back in slow motion, I clearly connected. But there was at least a third because we start taking some pot shots. So back off again, try to get some situational awareness, figure out where those shots were coming from. Swap back over to the AK once we get to cover, and then work the problem from there. I must have moved probably 50 to 100 meters here before I found some cover that I was satisfied with. And finally managed to find some rocks. Once I got to that cover, I was able to take another peek and make sure that I wasn't being pursued in any meaningful way by whoever was shooting at me. It doesn't appear that I was, and with that in mind, I was able to finally swap over to the AK and then go ahead and creep back in. As I moved back towards that house, I did find the guy who was pursuing me. He had gone up on the high ground, basically towards my initial firing position, and started clearing through that area. And so he was reacting to either the sound or some movement signature and went to wherever he last had detected me. At that point, I had taken another look at the gas station, didn't see anybody around the area, so went in to go ahead and complete the reconnaissance of it by getting close enough to discover it and doing a quick peek through some of the outbuildings and the main building to make sure I wasn't missing anything good in here. I will say the loot is not plentiful. However, the in-game economy is pretty damn healthy. The quest rewards seem to be sufficient to keep you going, and you start with a decent amount of cash. And so I've not ran into any of that issue yet where I'm, running out of cash, running out of equipment. And I think that you'll probably have to have a decent number of hours in the game if you experience kind of that scarcity at all. I still don't want to lose my good stuff, but, So I go back after finding that first reconnaissance objective. The other two objectives were on the south side of the town and the center of town. So I dropped the Remington 700, figured we were going building to building, put on tiger stripes for the occasion, and brought the AK and a Glock 17. Cleared the first building, and look at that. These guys actually do go in buildings. And I was wondering why he was in here. There's actually a dead PMC at my feet, a dead player at my feet. After I lit up that dude in the bathroom, I do get pushed from outside. There's at least one. I think there was actually a second out there as well. This guy's wounded bad. You can hear him moaning and groaning. And finally, another shot puts him down. At this point, I get pushed by the second. He peeks very briefly. I end up having to go outside to figure out where the hell he went. And his homie had rotated on me. That was as close as it gets. If I had been any more unlucky and that caught me in the face, that run ends right there. I do have my tourniquet as my kind of hotkey item for medical. This player is extraordinarily fortunate that I was in a tourniquet animation. Otherwise, he probably would have got shot. This way you use VoIP and tell people when you're coming in so you don't die. Finally push up towards the next recon location. I had discovered that one on the southern tip, and then I'm starting to move into the center of town. And there's players all around me at this point, and just like an ongoing run and gun battle. The ambient sound is it's wild actually, because it's starting to sound really good, and you might be just cruising along, and you can hear distant gunfire every once in a while. There'll be a stray crack over your head, and it just adds to the immersion, and adds to the entire experience. I went to the convenience store here to complete my reconnaissance. This is the third and final point of the reconnaissance. And at this point, I've completed all of my initial tasks for Gray Zone Warfare. I am enjoying this game so far. I am really excited to get into it with my buddies. And I think that you guys will enjoy it as well. If you've got a mid-range build or a higher-end build, it may be worth it right now if you're okay with, 40 to 70 to 80 frames. If you've got a super PC, you can expect 100 plus. And I suspect that they'll continue to optimize. Regardless, this game is well on its way, and if you are not having a good time with it right now, I am confident that as they continue to improve it, it will only get better, and this one's going to be around for quite some time. Congrats to the Gray Zone team. Curious what you guys think about Gray Zone Warfare. Are you having a good experience? A bad experience? Are you enjoying the game, or are you going to wait for a little while and see if they can pull it off? I'm Controlled Pairs. This has been Gray Zone Warfare. I'll see you guys in the next one.